And, yeah. This is item 30 on our calendar.
These are the pros.
This is 10,000 miles.
Get into Senator Hill. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. It's been good seeing you around the building today. And I appreciate your flexibility with the presentation. This is Senate Bill 778, which is about setting a single, simple, and I would argue critical performance standard for automotive motor oil. Specifically requiring that all motor oil sold be certified to last for at least 10,000 miles, and we've got a couple examples of oil that currently on the market that certified in just that way.
Very kind of you to bring those.
Yes, well,
exhibits
hopefully we're hoping that you may need an oil change and want some higher quality oil. A tune-up. Time for a tune-up. So 67% of automakers already require higher quality motor oil under the car warranty that meets the 7,500 or better mileage performance standard, with 23% requiring 10,000 or better. Despite this, only about 20% of motor oil that's currently sold meets this standard. So automakers recommend this higher quality oil because A, it improves performance and reduces engine wear and tear. B, it provides better gas mileage. And it also improved high and low temperature engine protection. We know that setting this minimum standard will benefit the environment by improving gas mileage and helping California to meet both the GHG reduction goals and the governor's proposed 50% petroleum reduction goal, which is included in SB 350 that we heard earlier. Used oil is one of the largest sources of hazardous materials, and reduced oil changes will directly reduce the pollution threat and management costs associated with used oil. We know that this standard will benefit consumers by improving gas mileage, reducing engine wear and tear, and reducing the need for frequent oil changes. Now, that all being said, this bill is not about telling consumers how often to change their oil. This is not about telling consumers about how often to change their oil. Even when using a 10,000-mile certified oil, some vehicles and some driving conditions may require more or less frequent changes. But when drivers who can wait 10,000 miles to change their oil or more do hold off, we will see less oil waste polluting our air, water, and landfills. Regardless of change frequency, we know that this higher quality oil will improve gas mileage, and that may be a reason alone to establish this minimum standard. We have minimum fuel efficiency standards for automobiles and performance standards for gasoline. We can achieve similar results with this minimum performance standard for motor oil. It's on the market, it works well, it's existing right now. Establishing this minimum performance standard will have the added benefit for consumers of phasing out of the marketplace poor quality automotive oil that doesn't meet the performance standard for use in most cars. Right now, store shelves are clogged with this low quality motor oil that, as I say, does not meet the performance standards for most cars. This is oil that lasts only 3,000 to 5,000 miles before needing a change. It doesn't even have the most recent API auto specification. And here's the kicker, it costs California consumers money by requiring them to change their oil more often than necessary and cost them at the pump by reducing the mileage their vehicles could achieve. So, you know, if you look at, we have a little chart here of the cost for 5 quarts of motor oil, and the 15,000 performance motor oil costs about $28 per bottle. For 5 quarts. Sorry, for 5 quarts. 5 quarts. Okay, I'm sorry. This is 1 quart. The kind of low quality stuff that's on the market right now is about $12.50. But we've got a chart here that if you take into account the fact that you're changing it less, it actually saves consumers money to have higher quality motor oil that's on the market. And that's under today's prices, which of course would drop if we were to mandate the higher performance standards, thus creating a much stronger market for the higher quality standards. So I have with me today Teresa Bowie from Californians Against Waste, and she's going to speak in support of the bill and help to answer questions. And Justin's here as well to help out with that.
First witness.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa with Californians Against Waste. SB 778 has one simple objective, which is to require all motor oil sold in California to meet a minimum performance standard. This standard is consistent with the auto industry's recommendation and warranty requirements. It'll help increase fuel efficiency, helping to save as much as 345 million gallons annually, and it'll help reduce pollution and waste. The standard will save consumers money in both lower fuel prices and fewer oil changes. This bottle sells for about $3 and appears on its face that it's a type of motor oil that is available or suitable for most cars. But in fact, this motor oil is not certified to perform for even 1 mile because there's no API Starburst logo, and it is not recommended for use in virtually any vehicle still on the road in California. Versus this bottle, which costs about $6, but is guaranteed to perform at least 15,000 miles and will actually save consumers about $70 or more annually in reduced fuel oil changes and reduced fuel costs.
I thought, I just heard Senator Allen say.
I screwed up on the bottle. This is the bottle we're talking about.
That's okay. But I thought he said that, or you started off, that this is only about the quality of the oil, not trying to get consumers to change the oil at different times.
Right.
Is the savings, because I see the switch between, the savings is if I go 10,000 miles, but if that's not the purpose, if it's just to improve the quality,
It's not that it's not the purpose. It's just that that's not what the bill tells people to do. Some people are raising this concern about oh well, then this just means that you're changing the rules on when you have to change your oil. No, ultimately it's the auto manufacturers that make that kind of determination, that recommendation to consumers. All we're doing is making sure that the motor oil that's on the market is higher quality. Now, of course, the assumption is, just as is already happening with a lot of cars, that as folks understand and know that there's higher quality oil that's on the market that everyone's buying, the need for regular changes will reduce. That people will have to change less frequently. But this bill doesn't mandate when you decide to change your motor oil or not. All it's doing is making sure that there's higher quality motor oil out there on the market for consumers that they're buying.
please proceed.
Okay, so this one is sold adjacent to this one, and this one is cheaper, so consumers are more likely to purchase it. But the Petroleum Quality Institute of America has already done testing on this, and it found that it is not up to the level of the API specifications. So if I may continue. California has already have a minimum efficiency and pollution control standards for vehicle and for fuel. Isn't it time for California to set minimum performance standards for the 115 million gallons of motor oil sold in California? As your analysis points out, there is already standards in California that addresses what should be labeled motor oil, and virtually all motor oil currently right now is self-certified to establish a mileage performance standard. And virtually every brand owner, such as Valvoline, Exxon, already has some oil certified for 10,000 miles or more. There's some that's 15 and 20, even 25,000 miles. And these oils account for about 20% of the current marketplace. The existence of these labeled high-mileage motor oils does not appear to cause any consumer confusion, and it doesn't conflict with any automaker's warranty requirements. So, in fact, according to CalRecycle, 41% of automakers are already requiring motor oil that lasts at least 7,500 miles. Consumers should continue to rely on their automaker's recommendation for oil changes. And in fact, most new cars have these little sensors, maintenance minor sensors, that inform the consumers when they should change their oil based on actual driving conditions. This bill is actually also good for business such as taxi cabs and fleet companies who have to spend who waste a lot of money when the cars are being serviced. So with that, I ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Chair, very briefly, Justin Malone on behalf of Stop Waste. We are one of the leading local agencies that has dedicated 30 years of our time to reduce waste and improve the quality of life of people in Alameda County. And the reason we're here is that we've been working for many, many years on trying to reduce waste. This is really what this is about. This is the only way we can reduce petroleum use, wastage, by elevating the performance. So you can get, for a mere two times the price, you can get 3 or 4 times the performance of that oil, leave it in your car longer, and reduce the amount of wastage by a commensurate amount. I've done extensive research on this just because I heard from staff and some members this concern about what happens if you leave your oil in your car for 6 months or something, you don't use it. From really reputable sources like Click and Clack. You may have heard Click and Clack. I want to tell you what they say. It's part of a marketing ploy by oil companies. 3,000 miles is a ploy. We can go 25,000 miles or further. And then I've gone to some really serious sources. The Chemical Engineering News in 2006 said it's time to change that. Most of these synthetic oils, these good ones, can go up to 25,000 miles. So we have set the bar extraordinarily low in California. It's time to raise the bar, time to stop the waste. We can't get there without it. Thank you.
The author suggests that, or in his in the analysis also, that 59% of the oil is now recycled. Whether I use the black bucket or the gray bucket, this doesn't have any effect on that recycling.
Absolutely. It's the sheer volume. If you can use any product for 3 times as long, you're going to use 1/3 of the product, whether it's water, whether it's oil, whatever it is.
That's not the purpose of this bill, is to change consumer use. It's only to make this oil last 10,000, but there's no suggestion that people are going to not change your oil every 3,000 miles or change it 5,000 miles or do what it is. It's just making it a better oil, but it's not.
But if it's guaranteed, if that oil has got a guarantee by the manufacturer, and I cannot imagine Mobil, one of the biggest corporations in the world, is going to put a guarantee of 15,000 miles if it can't back it. I mean, they're going to have one slew of lawsuits if the cars start blowing up at 15,000 miles or 14,000 miles. They guarantee this. That's not what we're saying. We're saying we can get oils that can go to 15,000 miles and beyond. And all we are saying is if a consumer knows that he or she is buying an oil and it's certified for 10,000 miles, they don't have to change it every 3. That's all we're saying.
No, but that's one of the criticisms that was raised in the committee report, is that consumers, I mean, we're changing the message here, is we're saying changing if we're not going to, or we're saying if we're not going to change consumer practices, even though they could, if they may, people that change their oil every 3,000 miles, whether they get that crappy stuff or this 15,000 or 100,000, they're just going to do it because that's the way Grandpa raised them to do it. Again, that's the, and they're still not going to recycle it. They're still going to do whatever whatever the 41% does.
Grandpa did a lot of things that are no longer being done now, and this is about changing behavior. I think.
Yeah, if I may. So right now, Jiffy Lube or some mechanics may recommend a certain mileage based on the lowest common denominator, such as this bottle. But if all motor oil sold in California meets 10,000 miles, then automakers and mechanics will be more comfortable recommending 10,000 miles across the board, helping to reduce consumer confusion.
Senator Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, Mr. Maloney, you mentioned that Mobil says this is a good product and you don't have to change your oil, but if I drive a Toyota and it says I have to change it every 4,000 and my warranty is conditioned on changing that I can show them when something goes wrong that I followed the manufacturer's recommendations, how does this apply to that?
I wouldn't testify that you should go and do anything that's not in total sync with your warranty, with the recommendation of, so I don't believe the bill is saying that you have to go the 10,000 miles. I think what we are seeing here is there's an opportunity for an incremental change and a substantial change, in fact, when the whole industry meets a higher standard, whether that's a low carbon fuel standard. That's what we do. We set a performance standard, and that's what we hold people up to.
And of course, all of the automobile manufacturers are in a competitive market. Part of the competitiveness of their product is the competitiveness of their warranty. As they know that there's higher quality oil that folks are using and there's consumer behavior changes, I think it is our hope that the automobile manufacturers will feel more and more comfortable upping the warranty, but that's obviously going to be up to them. But they make that decision as part of a competitive consumer market where they've got to have warranties that match or improve upon other competitors' warranties.
We'll come back to the committee. Let's hear from others who are in support of this measure, SB 778.
Eddie Moreno on behalf of Sierra Club California in support.
Thank you.
Kelly Dana on behalf of California League Conservation Voters in support.
Michael Pimentel with the City and County of San Francisco in support.
Fabiola La with the Coalition for Clean Air in support.
Kim Shannon for Biosynthetic Technologies in strong support. Thank you.
Let's hear from opposition. Is there anybody here who opposes SB 778?
Mr. Chairman, members, is this on? Good. Jeff Sickinger on behalf of the Western States Petroleum Association. I'm regretting not taking the advice of your very capable staff and bringing a snack with me. So forgive me if any of this comes out muddled at all. It's been a very interesting debate today, and I think in the interest of time, it might be the committee's pleasure that we cut to the chase as much as possible. So let me do that. Certainly the market is already moving in the direction of higher oil change intervals. We agree that's a good thing. We don't think this bill is going to do anything to accelerate that trend for a number of the reasons that have already been discussed here. I do want to make a couple of quick points along those lines. It was mentioned that that the oil manufacturers certify the mileage capability of their products. As a practical matter, the auto manufacturers don't care what the oil manufacturers say that their oil is capable of achieving. The other point that I would make is the standards against which API requires certification. There is extensive bench scale testing, extensive engine testing, field testing. This is a process that applies to every single oil formulation. It's a process that's very time consuming, and there is no standard in API, SAE, ILSAC for mileage change intervals. So the standard that we're referring to in the abstract here simply doesn't exist, to the best of our knowledge. I think the discussion is helping to highlight the fact that this is a public education problem, and the analysis alludes to the idea that the state has invested a fair amount of effort in trying to educate consumers on the 3,000-mile myth. And in fact, there is an advantage. We acknowledge there's an advantage to extended oil change intervals. But the fact of the matter is, it isn't the price of the oil that is going to drive that. It's, as we've discussed here this morning, or this afternoon rather, it's a function of what the auto manufacturer recommends. And if there are vehicles on the road today, as there are many, that have maximum oil change intervals of 5,000 miles or 7,500 miles under ideal conditions, and the vast majority of cars out on the road do not drive under ideal conditions. Again, the analysis alludes to what constitutes a severe condition. Most of us, I think, have experienced severe driving conditions. We're looking at less frequent intervals. So what you have is a situation where if this is the only product on the market, and we heard that it's currently, in some cases, we believe up to 3 times the price of a conventional motor oil, consumers are not going to realize the benefit of this product if they follow the auto manufacturer's recommendations. They'll be penalized. They'll be paying a higher price for their oil change. I would also note, finally, that the bill disregards some very important market realities. As the author notes, and as we see here on the table, there are products that meet a 10,000-plus mile change capability as certified by the oil manufacturer. But as a practical matter, our data suggests that these products occupy less than 5% of the current market. The bill has a January 2018 deadline. So in 2.5 years, we're talking about transforming 95% of the market, perhaps more. And I think another point that the committee should understand is that this oil, this synthetic oil, fully synthetic oil, is a function of a manufacturing process that is separate from petroleum refining. It's a chemical manufacturing process. there's a certain capacity that exists to make the molecules that are necessary to produce synthetic oil. That capacity is already fully subscribed in a variety of different uses. This is just one of them. So what we're talking about creating is a situation where either a handful of manufacturers who make 10,000 mile plus product are going to have to increase their capacity by tens of millions of gallons in a very, very short period of time, or we're going to have the hundreds of products that wouldn't meet the bill's mandate reformulated and run through the API certification process that I mentioned earlier. Either way you slice it, we're talking about a tremendous amount of capacity that has to be generated. It can't possibly be done in 2.5 years. I doubt that it can be done in 10 years. So while we appreciate the author's intentions, and we agree that longer intervals are a good thing, and that's going to be driven by auto manufacturers and their engine technology, the oil will follow. As a practical matter, the bill is simply not feasible as it's currently drafted.
What is, I mean, we're focusing on how many miles it can go, but what's the criteria that a synthetic blend, what variables should we be looking at if we really want to make a higher quality or have a higher quality of motor oil or synthetic oil, however we want it, available to Californians? Let's say we want to set a target and say this lower, the ones that his chart says 000, right? What criteria should we be looking at? And we're looking at mileage and.
Well, I mean, I think the primary criterion that we've discussed here today is what does the auto manufacturer recommend as the maximum change interval. The car park, the vehicle fleet on the road today is fairly long-lived. Nationally, a passenger car lasts about 11.4 years, a light truck maybe 11.3 years. The fleet turns over fairly slowly. So if the majority of cars out there on the road today, which will be roughly the same as the cars that will be out there on the road in 2018, require oil changes between 5,000 and 7,500 miles. That's what's going to control consumer behavior. If CalRecycle is successful with their public education campaign, the Check Your Number campaign, then consumers who are in the habit of changing their oil every 3,000 miles might actually pay attention to the manufacturer's warranty, and they might be able to get 5,000. That same customer can do that today with a conventional oil. Our point is simply we should have product out there in the marketplace that serves the needs of the existing car park, not something that is so aspirational that it's going to force consumers who could go with a conventional or a semi-synthetic product to pay 2 or 3 times the cost of their oil change when for most of them they're not going to change their oil less frequently. And I guess the other comment that I would make in response to your question is it's important to understand that engine technology drives oil technology, and part of the reason these products exist in the first instance is because engines are lighter, they're made with alloys that require higher quality oil, tolerances are tighter, they operate at higher RPMs, higher pressure and temperature, et cetera. So these products actually exist, and the mileage capabilities exist as a byproduct of the engine technology, which in turn has been driven by emission standards and fuel economy requirements. So we've got a little bit of cart before the horse here.
Next witness.
Mr. Chair and members, Chris Maurer on behalf of Safety Clean, which is the largest collector, recycler, and re-refiner of used oil in North America. Currently, they recycle or re-refine 200 gallons of used oil, high-quality used oil every year. 24 million gallons of that high-quality used oil is re-refined in the Newark facility here in California. Safety Clean operates under a closed-loop system, so it only accepts the high-quality motor oil, conventional motor oil that passes API, SAE, ILSAC. So that's the feedstock that Safety Clean relies on with regards to not only re-refining motor oil back to the same high-quality state as it was in its virgin state in the can before it was even first entered into the put into the automobile, but also it makes its own product called EcoPower. Formulates its own product, and it markets that product here in California and elsewhere, particularly for large vehicle fleets, state, local, private vehicle fleets, as well as your Jiffy Lubes and other oil change franchises as well. It's available as well to consumers. So while we don't doubt the sincerity of the author in terms of his goals and what he's trying to do, we don't think, with all due respect, that the language in the bill in its current form even comes close to getting there. And it creates huge problems for Safety Clean with regard to not only its current re-refining process, but its ability as of January 1st, 2018 to continue to honor its contracts, existing contracts with many of its customers, all of its customers in California, and continue to market its high-quality conventional motor oil product here in California. So that's a real problem for our clients, sir.
Thank you. Others opposed to SB 778?
Mike Rogie with California Manufacturers and Technology Association. I'd just like to reiterate something that Mr. Sickinger mentioned in just a little different light. If this bill passes, what you will have in 2018 is you'll have consumers who are paying 2 to 3 times more for an oil that goes 10,000 miles, but they're going, the bulk of the cars out in the marketplace and on the roads are not going to be able to take advantage of that. We urge your no vote. Thank you.
Anthony Sampson, California Chamber of Commerce, in opposition.
Deborah Mattis for the California Independent Oil Marketers. We're the largest distributor of lubricants in the state, and we agree, similar to what Senator Hill made the comment about. If your car is, we believe you should adhere to what the auto manufacturer recommends. And if they recommend 5 or 7,500 miles, then that's what you're under warranty. You have to stay with that. So why pay more? I have a car. When I bought my car, I found out I had to use synthetic oils 3 times as much. So that's what a lot of the people in California are going to be facing, I believe. Thank you.
When I buy a new car, I'll be able to say that also. You know, I've had a lot of opposition to bills that I've proposed, but I've never had any opposition say I was too aspirational. So congratulations to you, Senator. Let's see. Does anybody have a burning question for Senator Allen? Okay, I have Senator Leonard.
There are a couple of questions identified in the analysis, but I think they've already been addressed in one form or another, so I don't want to repeat anything. I think the proponents made very strong cases, but there are questions that have been raised through the conversation. Do we know, in fact, there's a note here in the analysis that says mobile, for example, suggests that you only use this silver container. Recommends it for vehicles that are beyond their warranty for the reasons that Senator Hill pointed out. Is that accurate?
That's correct. And one thing we should mention, and 67%, so 2/3 of automakers already require higher quality motor oil under the car warranty. So that meets a 7,500 or better mileage standard. 23% right now require 10,000 or better. So that's something to just keep in mind. I mean, there's already these very high requirements.
Is that counter to what we heard the opposition say, that only 5% of the market is represented by the higher synthetic grade?
Well, it's cars sold versus...
So 20% of motor oil currently sold meets the 10,000 standard. So that's from the information I have.
But I guess the comment that was made with regard to the 5% is that that's what is represented in the marketplace sold. So you're shaking your head? I'm sorry. So we don't know if that's an accurate statement?
The data I have is 20, but what can we get clarification from the...
Yeah.
What was the 5% number?
WISPA?
Yes, my understanding is that the 5% number is a national number for oil sold on an annual basis. And that's oil that is self-certified by the oil manufacturer for 10,000 plus. Certainly there are semi-synthetics and full synthetic oils that are capable of achieving mileage intervals less than 10,000. that would add to that number. But what the bill talks about, 10,000 plus, our understanding is that of what is sold on an annual basis, we're talking a volume of less than 5%.
Okay, that doesn't jibe with the data we have from CalRecycle. Maybe it's a California versus national standard. That may very well be the issue. I will say that I am certainly willing and indeed interested in working with the opponents on a timeline issue. I heard over and over again them bringing up 2018 and how there's just not enough time for full implementation by then. But I'd be happy to work with them on that.
I think that's a wise thing to do. I'll be supporting the bill today. So I've got a Toyota Camry hybrid, and the light goes on at about 4,500 miles. Now, I don't even know what my warranty is, so I've had the car almost 10 years. I may be pushing the
I'm
warranty.
sure you're out of warranty at this point.
So, but it would be the relatively minor inconvenience if I were to go to 10,000. I can't get that light off. So I'm going to have a red light, and it also obscures some of the other information that I can access. So that's just another thing you might look into further.
I can speak to that very briefly because I did address that last year. And what I did find, and it's not a definitive answer, but what I did find from my own research is that the auto manufacturers preset that light that goes on. I actually, when I switched to a fully synthetic oil, which I believe, and I don't have a young car, but when I switched to a fully synthetic oil, having researched this and found the benefits of fuel consumption and performance, I was able to change that light setting quite legitimately from my automobile dealer, from Nissan, and they were happy to change it. So I have a fully synthetic oil in a 12-year-old Nissan, and I change my oil less frequently than 7,500 miles. But I use something comparable to this that's got a 15,000-mile warranty. So I have no problem with warranty, and I take it back to the dealer, and it can be done.
So I'll check with my dealer, too. Thanks. I move the bill.
Okay, there has been a motion. I'll let you close at this time. I've had some concerns, as you can tell by the questions that I've asked about this and whether it's cooked. On the other hand, I've heard, listened to my colleagues here and listened to the data that you're showing about, or you've presented about the amount of vehicles that are being produced right now that are going to be avail themselves to the $10,000 or 10,000 mile oil and the 7,500. So there's a desire here. I don't know if all the timing is all right, but we have a motion. I'm betwixt and between, but I'll listen to your close.
Well, Mr. Chair, what would be what would be important for you to have me clarify? I mean, I'm happy to work on the timeline issue. I think that seems a legitimate concern. I'm hearing folks from industry saying they're worried about being able to be ready for this, given just logistically. I'm very happy to work with them on that. And if you want to sort of, so I assume that would be meaningful to you.
Yeah, no, that's very good. And then the opportunity of people to get out of warranty by just a simple mistake by actually reading the oil, the oil. And I'm concerned about that because we don't want to, we already have a public that, based on the information before us on this, that are changing their oil every 3,000 miles when they don't need to do it. And then we're going to say, and we don't want to get them out of their warranty by doing something that they say, well, they passed this, they've got this 10,000 mile oil. So, it seems like we're moving in that direction, but.
I know. This is what's so strange. I mean, remember, 2/3 of all cars right now require 7,500 or more for warranty. So,
that are still under warranty. Sure,
I'm so sorry. Say.
Through the chair.
No, please.
Maybe it's just too late for me to think clearly, but when new cars are being sold, is there something that's going to be different in their warranty thing regarding this, so we don't have this constant issue? Are we just running the course of those with the warranties on cars that are currently on the market, and then fairly soon we will have information to the consumer and their newer cars regarding it's 10,000 miles or whatever.
Yes, I think that's
the goal. So there should be an end to this sort of confusion, I would assume, eventually.
And actually, with maybe in connection with this timeline conversation, maybe we could tier, when a percentage.
I don't want all the automobile manufacturers engaged in trying to defeat your bill too, but it's something to be thinking about.
Yeah, we haven't gotten opposition from them. I mean, this is, you've seen the folks who are concerned about this.
House.
Yeah.
If there's confusion in the public, that might help.
Yeah, I'm happy to work on a kind of a percentage tier.
And that would be my
compliances.
sense as well, Mr. Chair, if you would be kind enough to look at that. I think that would be helpful, and I'll support it certainly today.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
We have achieved something we haven't achieved since 9 o'clock when I started this hearing. We are all present. So I will recognize the vice chair, Senator Gaines.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. But I just had a question because this technology is changing very rapidly. And as we push the envelope on fuel efficiency, you're noticing that auto manufacturers are changing the oils that they're using. So I bought a Subaru Legacy a year ago with a 020 synthetic oil, and it burns oil. The viscosity of the oil is so thin because what they've done is they've tried to narrow the differential between the piston and the wall of the piston for better efficiency, and it's burning oil. So I'm fearful that and concerned that as we continue to move the ball forward on efficiency from a fuel consumption standpoint, that the auto manufacturers having to adjust the type of oil that's going into these, and you may not be getting the 10,000 miles that you thought you were going to get. And it's a continuing problem. I went online and went to several blogs. Subaru has had continued problems with burning of oil with the new synthetic since they've introduced a new efficient engine within the last 2 years.
I can speak to it only in the sense that we're assuming that these oils are all going to be APA certified. And that's really, we're conflating a lot of issues here, and I understand if Subaru has a problem, it's Subaru's problem. They shouldn't be prescribing an oil that's not performing properly in their vehicle. Mercedes-Benz or one of these really high-end European vehicles have been prescribing synthetic oils for a long time now, and you can only use synthetic. In fact, the warranty says you can only use synthetic oils. So I understand your concern there, but I would suggest that if it's an APA certified oil, and we're not suggesting anything other than that, it should meet the American Petroleum Institute's requirements. And if it's specified by the automobile manufacturer, then I think it's an issue with Subaru. I love Subarus. I had one myself, but I don't think it's the oil problem there necessarily.
Well, but it's creating a problem. You're talking about efficiency. You're talking about oil changes that are supposed to occur at 10,000 miles, and they're not occurring in the real world, at least in this case. And I'd be willing to argue that there may be other problems with other manufacturers as they're increasing the efficiency of the vehicle. So it's a problem in reality that may create problems as you move forward on longer distance oil changes.
I don't really, I don't think, I'm not sure, I'm not sure that really, though, defeats the bill, right? I mean, the bill is about trying to make sure that we've got better quality motor oil out there for people to use, and it's moving us more toward without requiring it. It's moving us toward greater efficiency in the use of motor oil. At the end of the day, the gentleman's absolutely right. I mean, lots and lots of cars have made it work. In fact, demand this type of synthetic oil. and we're not hearing, in fact, Subaru, of all manufacturers, was kind of very, very supportive of this change. So I obviously need to find out a little bit more about what sort of problems they're having with their energy efficiency, particularly with regards to the use of synthetics. I'm very surprised to hear it because that was the actual automobile manufacturer that was most involved and most enthusiastic about this from the beginning. So I obviously need to talk to them a little bit more about it. I wasn't aware of this particular challenge that they seem to be having.
Could I just
And
pipe in? I've been listening carefully, trying to understand this issue better. I like the idea of this. There are some concerns, like anything new that you're trying, you're trying to use a new technology, a new system that not necessarily all cars have adapted to or may possibly adapt to. There might be some problems, although the intentions are good. I will support this because I like the idea, but would you continue to work on this? I know you will, but I'd just like your assurances that we can address what are some of the legitimate concerns, and keeping in mind sometimes we make promises about new products that we can't necessarily keep because there are so many variables. But I like what you're trying to accomplish here, and so with the notion that I'll keep watching as it goes forward, because this, I think it would, should we be able to succeed with this and get the product on the market and being used by people. And I do agree that this ain't grandma, grandpa's world anymore. And most of us recognize that, and old habits have to die sometimes, especially in today's world. So I think that there is a real potential here, but it's still a little squishy.
I appreciate the comments, Senator. I would just point out that it's not a new product. It's a product that's on the market now, being utilized by about a quarter of drivers, at least in California, from what we're hearing. But yes, I've been listening very carefully to this discussion and want to continue to have conversations also with some of the folks who've raised concerns to make sure that we've got a bill that's really coherent and able to make a difference.
And I'll take that as your close. Okay, we have a motion. I want all the senators to vote the way they want to vote. I'm going to respectfully stay off. We've had conversations. We will continue to have conversations. Assistant, please call the roll.
Item 30, SB 778 by Senator Allen. The motion is due pass and referred to Committee on Appropriations. Senators Wieckowski? Gaines? No. Gaines, no. Bates? Hill? Aye. Hill, aye. Jackson? Aye. Jackson, aye. Leno? Aye. Leno, aye. Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye.
That measure has 4 votes, 4-2. 4-1. It's approved. Congratulations, and it goes on to appropriations. Our first completed action there about that. Nothing. Okay, let's turn to item number. What is it?